Ever thought about starting your own business but stopped short because the legal stuff felt like a total nightmare? Well, you're not alone. Forming an LLC in Delaware, it might sound complicated, but it's actually one of the easiest, most flexible ways to launch your business with privacy and protection built right in if you know how to do it. So in this video here, I will walk you through the exact steps so you could start your LLC without any stress. And it's worth mentioning that there's one specific mistake that can ruin your entire filing that most people don't catch until it's too late, but we'll get to that here in a bit. Now, if you're wondering why so many people choose Delaware for their LLC, here's the quick answer. So Delaware, they make it easy, private, and flexible to run a business. Privacy is taken seriously, and your name and address, they don't have to appear in any public records. Only your registered agent's info is listed. So you get a layer of confidentiality kind of built in. They also provide business-friendly laws, as Delaware's legal system is famous for being fair and efficient, with a special court that handles business disputes quickly and predictably. And there's also no state income tax on out-of-state revenue. So if your business operates outside of Delaware, you won't pay Delaware state income tax on top of that money. So Delaware clearly has a lot going for it, but before you can take advantage of any of that, you have to start your business. And that all begins with your business name. And frankly, this is where a lot of people, they hit their first roadblock. Now, before we jump in too deep here, there is one thing to keep in mind. So starting your business, it should be exciting and not overwhelming. But forming an LLC on your own, it can get pretty confusing fast with all the different legal forms and rules and easy to miss details and deadlines. Now, I'll walk you through everything in this video, but if any part of this feels confusing, I've got a favorite LLC formation service that makes the whole process super simple and stress-free. It's guided, beginner-friendly, and it only costs $39. So if you hit any bumps along the way, just click right up here to get step-by-step help setting up your LLC the easy way, if that's needed. That said, let's talk about naming your Delaware LLC. And the first thing to know is that Delaware is strict. Your LLC name, it must be unique and clearly different from any other business that's registered in the state. So just changing, the or adding a small word usually isn't enough. So if your dream name is taken, you'll need to get creative and try different variations. Your name also must end with limited liability company, L.C. or LLC. You can also use abbreviations like limited or, co if you want that as well. Now, Delaware also restricts certain words like, bank or trust or university or college, unless you get special approval from the right state agency. Now, to check if your name is available, you can use the Delaware Divisions of Corporations Name Availability Search, which is linked to in the description below, along with any other resource that I mentioned in this video. Now, once you figure out your name, if you're not ready to file just right there, you can also reserve your name for 120 days for a $75 fee. And this gives you time to get everything else in order without losing your chosen name. So assuming that you've locked in your name, that's yours, well, now you're off to a good start. But before your LLC can officially exist, Delaware wants to know there's always someone that they can reach if something important comes up. And that's where your registered agent will come in. And getting this part right is definitely crucial. So let's break down what a registered agent is, what they do, and why they matter, and also how to choose the best one for your company. Okay, so let's clear this up, which confuses a lot of business owners. Your registered agent, what's it all about? Well, this isn't just a formality. Your registered agent is the official point of contact for your Delaware LLC. And this is the thing I mentioned in the intro as the area where people make a major mistake that can impact your filing if it's not done right. So registered agents are the ones who receive legal documents and important state notices on your behalf so that you never miss something official. Now, Delaware law requires every LLC to have a registered agent with a physical address in the state. No PO boxes are allowed there. And the agent must be available during normal business hours to accept documents in person. Now, if you live in Delaware, you can technically be your own agent, but most people prefer to use professional service for privacy and peace of mind. Now, at this point, I just have to recommend Northwest Registered Agent. I've used them myself, and they're known for reliability, strong privacy protections, and straightforward pricing. Now with Northwest, you get a real Delaware address, you get compliance reminders, and secure online access to all your documents at any time. And this service is especially helpful if you don't actually live in Delaware or just want to keep your personal address off public records for privacy reasons. The most important thing to know is that if you miss a legal notice because your agent isn't reliable, your LLC, it could fall out of good standing with the state or even get dissolved. So it's worth getting someone that you can absolutely trust here. Now, if you want to check out Northwest Registered Agent, you can go ahead and click right up here to learn more. Now, from here, let's walk through the actual paperwork. And the first thing is filing your certificate of formation, which can be complicated unless you know what you're doing. So here's where your Delaware LLC officially comes to life. So filing the certificate of formation is surprisingly simple and really only takes a few minutes if you're prepared. And you can file online or by mail, and the state fee is $110 for that. Now, you'll need to provide just 3 things to file. So your LLC's exact legal name, the name and the address of your Delaware registered agent, and the signature of an authorized person, which could be you. Now, Delaware, they don't require you to list owners or managers on this form, so your privacy is protected from the start. And once you get approved, you'll get a stamped copy back, and you want to hang on to that since it's proof that your LLC actually exists. And it's that straightforward. But don't get too comfortable here, because next you'll want to also create an operating agreement to keep your business running smoothly as well. And we'll jump into that. So here's a step that frankly is easy to skip, but skipping it can cause a lot of headaches later. So the operating agreement is your LLC's playbook. It spells out who owns what, how decisions get made, and what happens if someone wants out or if the business closes. Now, Delaware, they don't require you to file this document with the state, and technically, you don't even have to have one at all. But having a written operating agreement is a smart move, even if you're the only owner. And the reason why is because it proves that you own your business, it helps protect your personal assets, and it can prevent disputes if you have any partners as well. In addition, banks and investors often want to see it before working with you. Now, your agreement, it should cover things like, ownership percentages, voting rights, profit sharing, management structure, and basically what happens if someone leaves or the business completely dissolves. You can kind of think of it as like a prenup for your business, right? No one wants to use it, but you'll be glad it's there if things ever get complicated. Speaking of complicated, really quick, one thing that also makes sense to do right now. So you want to get an employer identification number or an EIN from the government. This is basically like your business's social security number. And it allows you to open up business bank accounts and a lot of other things you basically have to do in order to run a business. Now, to do that, you just go to the federal website to get your EIN. It's very simple to do. It takes a few minutes. You just fill out a form and press a button, and it'll all be delivered to you digitally. So super quick to do that as well. And next, there's a license that every business in Delaware needs, and it's not something you can skip. So let's talk about that here. So here's a step that surprises a lot of new business owners. So even after you form your Delaware LLC, you're not officially ready to operate until you get a state business license. Every LLC doing business in Delaware, they must obtain a general business license from the Division of Revenue, which costs $75 per year for most businesses. Now, if you have more than one business location, you'll need a separate license for each location, and the fee applies to every location as well. Now, depending on your industry, you might also need special permits or professional licenses. So, like food service, childcare, or really any business that's regulated. Local city or, county governments, they may have their own requirements and fees as well. So it's important to check with them to make sure that, you're not, doing something you shouldn't be. Now, skipping this step, it can lead to fines or even having your business shut down. So it's really worth double checking what's required for your specific business type and your location. And once you've got your licenses and permits in place, you can operate legally and avoid unnecessary headaches. But there's more to staying compliant in Delaware. Next, let's break down how taxes work for LLCs, because there are a few surprises that you'll want to know about. So here's where things get confusing. So Delaware's tax setup is different from most states, and it can actually work in your favor if you know the basics. So first, every Delaware LLC, they pay a flat $300 annual franchise tax, which is due by June 1st of each year. And this fee is required whether your business makes money or not, and skipping it can get your LLC out of good standing or even dissolved in the future. And Delaware doesn't have a state or local sales tax, but it does have a gross receipts tax. So this tax is based on your total revenue from goods or services sold in Delaware specifically, with rates ranging from 0.0945 to 1.9914, depending on your business type. Now, you can't deduct expenses to lower this tax. And again, you only pay it on sales made within Delaware. Now, for most LLCs, profits, they will pass through to the owners who pay federal and state income taxes on their share. If your LLC operates outside Delaware, you generally won't owe Delaware income tax on that out-of-state revenue. The key takeaway, Delaware's taxes, they are straightforward, but you need to stay on top of the franchise tax and know if the gross receipts tax applies to your business. And up next, let's talk about what it takes to keep your LLC compliant year after year. And failure to follow these guidelines could actually cause a whole lot of headaches, so you won't want to miss this next section. Now, in terms of compliance in Delaware, it's really not overly complicated. So I already mentioned this, but every Delaware LLC, they must pay the $300 annual franchise tax by June 1st. If you miss that deadline, you'll face a $200 penalty plus 1.5% interest per month until it's paid back. Now, unlike many states, Delaware doesn't require LLCs to file an annual report, and you just pay the tax and you're set for the year. And remember, you'll also need to keep your state business license each year as well. And beyond that, you'll need to keep a registered agent with a Delaware address at all times. Now, if your agent changes, you want to make sure that you update the state right away to avoid losing your good standing. And it's smart to review and update your operating agreement as your business evolves as well, especially if you add partners or change how you operate over time. Now, if you start doing business in another state, you'll also need to register your Delaware LLC there, which is called a foreign qualification, and follow that state's rules too. And next, from here, let's break down all the costs that you can expect when running your Delaware LLC. So we already know what is required to create the LLC, right? But nobody likes surprise fees. So here's what you can expect to pay when starting and running your Delaware LLC in the future. First, certificate of formation, $110 one-time state filing fee to officially create your LLC. Next, registered agent. Northwest registered agents is $39 the first year, $125 every year after. And again, they got to have a Delaware address, etc. You can do it yourself, but Northwest is the way to go in my opinion. Also, state business license, $75 to $200 per year, depending on your location and your actual industry. Most LLCs will need this, so keep that in mind. Also, the annual franchise tax, $300 fee, that is due by June 1st of every year, no exceptions there. And then also optionally, name reservation, $50 to $75, depending on how quickly you actually need the name reservation done. Now, in your first year, you can expect to spend around $200 to $600, depending on your choices, total. After that, you can plan $400 to $800 per year to keep your LLC compliant and active. And staying on top of these costs, it means there's no nasty surprises and more money is left for growing your business. Now, again, to help with this entire process, I really do advise you to use a service like Northwest Registered Agents, which again, you can click right up here to check out, as they'll help you stay in compliance year after year, even while you try to run your business. Now, if you have any questions for me or you're just a little confused about the process, well, drop me a comment below and I'll do my absolute best to help you out as soon as possible. And as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.